What type of leader are you? And is that working for you? Hi entrepreneurs, I'm Vicky Brown, and you're in the right place if you want to engage your team, boost your business, and grow your leadership muscle. Servant leadership. If you've been around business for any amount of time, I'm sure you've heard the term. But do you actually know what it means? What is a servant leader anyway? And is it a good option for your leadership style? Well, first, the definition. A servant leader is someone who shares power and puts the needs of their team first. They aim to help people develop and perform at their highest potential. In fact, the term was coined by Robert Greenleaf in 1970, and his thought was that true leadership emerges from a desire to serve others rather than to wield power for personal gain. Okay, I know that sounds great in theory, but how does it work in practice? Well, in truth, there is a long list of behaviors that define servant leadership. But since we don't have time for all of them, here are 4 cornerstones and actionable steps that you can implement. First up, practice empathy. This isn't just about being nice, it's about truly understanding where your team members are coming from. Put yourself in their shoes. What are their challenges? What are their aspirations? What are their fears? You see, when you approach leadership with empathy, you're better equipped to support your team in a real, meaningful way. It's not about agreeing with everything they say, but about genuinely trying to understand their perspective. Empathy also means recognizing and validating your team members' aspirations. Maybe you have an employee who's eager to take on more responsibility. By understanding their ambition, you can work together to create a growth plan that aligns with their goals and the needs of your business. Now, it's important to note that empathy isn't about being a pushover or always agreeing with your team. It's about creating an environment where different viewpoints are respected and considered. When team members feel understood, well, they're more likely to be engaged. Practicing empathy can be challenging, especially when you're dealing with viewpoints that differ greatly from your own. It requires patience, open-mindedness, and a willingness to set aside your own assumptions. But the payoff? Well, the payoff is huge. When your team feels truly heard and understood, it builds trust, and that can drive your business forward. By leading with empathy, you're laying the groundwork for stronger relationships, better communication, and ultimately, a more successful business. Next, let's talk ethics. As a servant leader, your decisions should be grounded in strong moral principles. This means doing what's right, even when it's not easy or profitable in the short term. Your team and your customers will respect you for it, and it's good business. Remember, your integrity is your most valuable asset. Now, when I talk about ethics in business, I'm referring to a set of moral principles that guide your decision-making and behavior. It's about doing the right thing, not just the legal thing or the profitable thing. Now, you and I both know that for business owners, ethical dilemmas pop up every day. Maybe you're tempted to cut corners to meet a deadline, or perhaps you're considering withholding information from a client to secure a deal. These are the situations that test your integrity as a leader. But here's the thing, your team is watching. They see how you handle these ethical challenges. When you consistently choose the high road, even when it's tough, you're setting a powerful example. You're showing your team that principles matter more than short-term gains. Now, I'm not saying this is always easy. There will be times when the ethical choice feels like it's at odds with your business interests. But here's where the long view comes in. Businesses built on a foundation of strong ethics tend to be more resilient. They weather scandals better. They attract and retain top talent. They build lasting relationships with customers and with partners. Your reputation for integrity can become one of your strongest competitive advantages. Because in a world where consumers are increasingly concerned about corporate social responsibility, A reputation for ethical behavior, well, that can set you apart from your competitors. You have to remember that as a servant leader, your role goes beyond just running a profitable business. You're shaping a culture, influencing lives, and potentially impacting your community. Your ethical stance, that's going to ripple far beyond the walls of your business. So, how do you ensure you're leading ethically? Well, start by clearly defining your values and the principles that will guide your business. Make these explicit, write them down, share them with your team, and most importantly, live by them every day. Create systems and processes that support ethical decision-making. Encourage open dialogue about ethical issues within your team. And here's a crucial point. Be prepared to make tough calls. There will be times when the ethical choice costs you. A contract, a client, maybe even an employee. But stand firm, because your integrity, once lost, is incredibly hard to regain. In the end, ethical leadership is not just about avoiding wrongdoing. It's about actively doing good. It's about creating a business that you can be proud of, one that adds value to the world, beyond just its products or services. As a servant leader, that's your ultimate goal. And it starts with a rock-solid commitment to ethics. Humility is another cornerstone of servant leadership. It's about recognizing that leadership isn't about you. It's about the people you serve. So stay grounded and remember, the moment you think you know everything, well, that's the moment you stop growing as a leader. Oh, I know humility and leadership might seem like the opposite of what we want. After all, aren't leaders supposed to be confident, decisive, and all-knowing? But here's the truth. The most effective leaders, especially in business, are those who can set their egos aside and embrace humility. You see, being humble doesn't mean being weak or indecisive. It means having the strength to acknowledge that you don't have all the answers. It's about recognizing that your team members, regardless of their position, have valuable insights and experiences to contribute. Humility also means admitting when you're wrong or when you don't know something. If you make a mistake, own up to it. If you're unsure about something, say so. Your team will respect you more for your honesty than they would for false confidence. And how about giving credit where it's due? When your team achieves something great, shine the spotlight on them, not yourself. Celebrate their successes publicly. It not only boosts morale, but it also encourages more great work in the future. Now, I know humility can be challenging, especially when you're just starting out as a leader. It requires self-awareness and a willingness to be vulnerable. But the benefits, well, the benefits are enormous. And in the end, remember this. Leadership isn't about being the smartest person in the room. It's about bringing out the best in others. And that's exactly what humble servant leadership does. It turns the traditional top-down leadership model on its head, creating a more collaborative, innovative, and ultimately more successful business. And finally, let's talk about boundaries. It might seem counterintuitive when we're talking about servant leadership, but it's one of the most important cornerstones. When you're focused on serving others, you also need to take care of yourself. So set clear expectations about your availability and your workload. It's okay to say no sometimes. When you're careful to maintain healthy boundaries, then you can make sure that you continue to lead effectively without burning out. Okay, yes, servant leadership is all about putting others first, but not to the point where you neglect yourself. After all, you can't pour from an empty cup. You've got to put your mask on first. Okay, I know I'm mixing my metaphors, but you get the idea. And don't worry, setting boundaries doesn't mean you're not committed to your team or your business. It simply means you're committed to sustainable leadership. It's about managing your energy and resources so you can show up as your best self day after day. Define your work hours and stick to them. Let your team know when you're available and when you're not. Learn to delegate. You don't have to do everything yourself. Trust your team with responsibilities. Create communication norms. Maybe you don't answer emails after 7 p.m. Or perhaps you have a no meetings Wednesday policy so you can focus on deep work. Practice saying no. This is tough for many leaders, but it's essential. When you're asked to take on a new project or commitment, ask yourself, Does this align with my priorities? Do I have the capacity for this? And if the answer is no, it's okay to respectfully decline. Take care of your physical and mental health. Make time for exercise, proper nutrition, and activities that recharge you. Remember, your well-being directly impacts your ability to lead effectively. And don't worry that setting boundaries will make you seem less committed or less available to your team. Clear boundaries actually make you more reliable and more effective. When you're not stretched so thin, you can be fully present and engaged. Now, I'm not saying that adopting a servant leadership style is going to be easy. It's going to require a shift in your mindset and consistent effort on your part. You've got to check your ego at the door and be willing to put others first. But the rewards, both for your business and for you personally, well, they can be tremendous. So, I challenge you to try incorporating servant leadership principles into your leadership style. Go ahead and start small if you need to. Maybe focus on one aspect, like practicing more empathy or being more accessible to your team. Pay attention to how it affects your interactions and your team's performance. Remember, being a servant leader is a journey, not a destination. It's about continually striving to be better, to serve more effectively, and to create an environment where everyone can thrive. So, what type of leader will you choose to be? The choice is yours. If you found this information helpful, please subscribe and share. And remember, your inspired leadership is the secret sauce to having a high-performance team and a wildly successful business you'll love. I'll see you next time on Leader's Journey.